Sir, something is wrong with the men.
Take me to them.
Men were dying on ships, their teeth falling out, their bodies rotting alive, and a single lemon could have saved them. Two men stand in front of you. One offers you a bar of gold, the other, a single lemon. Which one do you take? It sounds obvious. Gold can buy anything. A lemon feels worthless. But there was a time when choosing gold meant you were choosing death. Men were dying, not in battle, not even from the enemy, but from something no one could see. Their gums started to rot, skin turning fragile, bruising without reason, old wounds opening again, as if the body itself was giving up. And the worst part, they had the cure right in front of them, and they didn't understand it. This is the story of a time when a simple lemon was worth more than gold, and if you were there, your choice would decide if you lived or disappeared into the ocean. So the real question is, what kind of world makes a lemon worth more than gold? And more importantly, why didn't they use it when it was right in front of them? The answer goes back to a time where survival was never guaranteed. That's how it looked in the end, but it didn't start that way. At sea, everything looked normal. Men were still working, still following the same routine, but something was already going wrong. Days would pass, and nothing felt wrong. No wounds, no enemies, just the ocean and time. And then, something changed. It started small. Fatigue. A kind of weakness that didn't make sense, and no one understood why. Because this wasn't an attack. It wasn't spreading from one man to another. It wasn't something they could fight. This was their own body, breaking down. And once it started, there was no stopping it. Weeks into the journey, these ships stopped feeling like ships. They felt like floating graveyards. By now, two things were clear. Men were dying, and no one knew why. But the most dangerous part of this story wasn't the disease. It was what they didn't understand about how to stop it. Because somewhere, hidden in plain sight, was the one thing that could have saved them. That wasn't just one ship. It was happening everywhere. But there was one journey that proved just how deadly this really was. In 1740, a British fleet set sail under Commodore George Anson with nearly 2,000 men on board. They were trained, armed, prepared for war, but war wasn't what killed them. Weeks into the voyage, men started to collapse. Not from battle, not from storms, from the same thing. No one could explain. It spread silently. One man, then another, then entire sections of the crew, even the man leading the entire fleet. Commodore George Anson was watching his crew fall apart, with no way to stop it. Men stopped standing, stopped working, stopped being able to do anything at all. And then, they started dying. By the time the journey was over, nearly 1,300 men were dead. Out of 1,955 sailors, only about 145 survived. Think about that. They didn't lose to an enemy. They didn't lose to the sea. They lost to something they didn't even understand. They didn't even have a name for what was killing them. But here's where it gets worse, because they had the clues, but they didn't understand them. Because the truth was hiding in something they had seen before. Today, we know it as scurvy, and it didn't just kill a few sailors. Between the 1500s and the 1700s, scurvy is estimated to have killed over 2 million sailors. A disease, not caused by an enemy, but by something missing. The body was breaking down because it wasn't getting what it needed to survive. Vitamin C, out at sea. Fresh food didn't last. No fruits, no vegetables, just dried meat and hard biscuits that never spoiled. So their bodies kept losing what they couldn't replace. And the cure? It wasn't rare. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't hidden. It was fruit, lemons, limes, simple citrus. The kind of thing no one thought could save a life. Something sailors had seen countless times before, and yet it didn't save them. Because knowing something is not the same as understanding it. Back then, there was no concept of vitamins, no science, no clear explanation, no system, just guesses that no one fully trusted. Some crews tried citrus and saw results, but others dismissed it or didn't have access to it. Supply failed, belief failed, consistency failed. So the cure existed, but it wasn't used when it mattered most. But still, it wasn't enough. And that is where everything changes. For years, ships kept sailing, and men kept dying. Even after everything they had seen, nothing really changed, because no one could prove what could actually save them. Then, in 1747, a naval surgeon named James Lind decided to test it, not with theories, not with guesses, but with one of the first controlled clinical trials in history. On board a British warship, the HMS Salisbury, he selected 12 sick sailors and divided them into 6 groups. Each group received the same basic diet, but different treatments: cider, sulfuric acid, vinegar, seawater, medicinal paste. And one group got something simple: 2 oranges and 1 lemon. Within days, the citrus group began to recover faster than anyone else. For the first time, there was real, test-based evidence that citrus could save lives. But here's where the story takes a turn. In 1753, Lind published his findings, and almost nothing happened, because the result still didn't make sense. There was no concept of vitamin C, no explanation for why it worked, but they started to notice something else. Every time citrus was used, men survived, and every time it wasn't, they didn't survive. Just a result many didn't fully trust. And even when they tried to use it, there was another problem. Fresh citrus didn't last long at sea, juice spoiled, storage failed, so even with proof, nothing was consistent. And while all of this was happening, men kept dying, year after year. It took nearly 50 years, until finally, a physician named Gilbert Blaine pushed for change. Blaine had seen the pattern. Across real naval voyages, ships that used citrus returned with their crews alive. Those that didn't came back half empty. And at that point, it wasn't theory anymore. It was survival. In 1795, the British Royal Navy made it mandatory. Every sailor had to consume citrus juice daily, not as an idea, not as an experiment, but as a rule. And almost immediately, everything changed. Ships stopped losing crews. Long voyages became possible. Survival became expected. And that one decision did more than save lives. It changed who ruled the seas, because the sailors who survived powered the ships that built an empire. The moment citrus became survival, something unexpected happened. It stopped being fruit and started becoming power. Because now, every navy needed lemons. Not once, not occasionally, every single day. And when demand exploded, the world faced a problem. There was only one place that could supply them at scale: Sicily. And this wasn't random. Sicily had everything lemons needed: warm, stable climate, rich volcanic soil, water, even in dry land, a combination found nowhere else in Europe. In Sicily, near the city of Palermo, there was a valley filled with lemon trees. They called it Concadoro, the bowl of gold, not because of its name, but because from above, the land didn't look green. It looked like gold. But this wasn't just beauty, this was money. As demand rose, so did the value. By the mid-1800s, lemon groves were generating up to 60 times more value than traditional crops like grapes or olives. And the numbers only got bigger. In 1837, just 740 barrels of lemon juice left Sicily. By 1850, more than 20,000 barrels, a 2,700% increase in just 13 years. By the 1880s, millions of citrus cases were arriving in New York every single year. Nearly 80% of all lemons in the United States came from Sicily. This wasn't farming anymore. This was a global supply chain. And the profits? They didn't just rise, they exploded. From 1,000 lemon plants, you could earn 7 times your investment. Compared to grapes, lemons were over 30 times more profitable. One worker could harvest 5,000 lemons a day. That harvest could generate around 85 lire in value. But the worker, he earned just 1.5 lire. Almost everything else went to the landowners. Because lemons weren't just crops anymore. They were assets. Controlled, protected, profitable. And that's when it happened. For the first time in history, a single lemon was more valuable than gold. Not because it cost more, but because gold couldn't save your life. A lemon could. Now the picture was clear. Men were dying. The cure existed. It was ignored. then used. And now, it was worth everything. But when something becomes this valuable, it doesn't stay unprotected. Because where there is wealth, there is control. And where there is control, something else begins to grow. And that something had a price. People were willing to kill for it. Because once lemons became this valuable, they stopped being traded. They started being fought over. In Sicily, lemon groves weren't just farms anymore. They were targets. Steal the fruit, and you made money overnight. Cut the water supply, and entire orchards would die. And the worst part? You couldn't just grow them again. It took years for a single tree to start producing. So if someone hit your land, you didn't lose a harvest. You lost everything, and there was no one to stop it. No police, no protection, no system. So the landowners made a choice. They hired protection. Men who knew violence. Men who understood fear. At first, they protected the farms. Then slowly, they started controlling them. Deciding who gets protection and who doesn't. Who pays and who suffers. And what started as protection turned into power. And that power had a name. The Mafia. An entire system built on control, fear, and lemons. Yes, lemons. But this is only the beginning, because what they built next was far more dangerous than anything we've talked about. They didn't just protect businesses, they controlled people. So now the real question is, how did a fruit turn into one of the most feared organizations in history? And what exactly did they do to keep that power? If you want the next part, let me know.